Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, Treyarch released a brand new multiplayer dev talk for Black Ops 7, detailing a ton of changes that they're making for Black Ops 7 launch based off of beta feedback. And they've sort of been teasing this the past couple of days with some pretty significant updates and changes taking place in this. So we've got our about 4.5 minute long multiplayer update dev talk that we're going to react to for the very first time here. We'll go through and put this on 1080p, make sure it's all good to go there. Let's see what we got going on with our multiplayer dev talk.
Hey everyone, Matt
updates.
Design
Hello,
Director
Matt.
at Treyarch, back again to talk about some updates for multiplayer in Black Ops 7. Okay, so the
They're
first
always in a
topic
different set.
I want to touch on is the whole aim down sights, ADS, while sliding, diving, wall jumping topic.
So first up, I'm going to try and pause in between them talking, obviously, so we're not interrupting mid-sentence or anything as we're reacting to this live. But this was one of my personal big complaints from the beta in my initial review video and my final review video. I mentioned how being able to slide and have the tack stance was really annoying at times. You want to ADS or doing the wall jumps and the tack stance was really annoying. Dexterity should have just been a base perk in the game, and that's like just how the game functions in general. You don't need dexterity because then it's just a major crutch. So see what he's got to say.
That did require you to take the dexterity perk. The team looked at all of our options and ultimately landed on providing the most fluid experience by default, which does mean we've reintroduced the ability to aim down sights while sliding, diving, and wall jumping by default. You do not need to take the dexterity perk.
That.
Dexterity will still speed up those interactions, sprint to fire, slide to fire, but you will not need dexterity perk to ADS while doing those actions.
So that's big. That means at its core now, dexterity, if you use dexterity in the beta, that's going to be the general idea of core movement. Now, dexterity being able to speed things up still will give you the option to play even more aggressive, which I think is probably a solid way to balance it out there. But no longer by default are you going to be tack stancing every time you slide and try and go into that ADS transition, or are you going to be wall jumping and tack stancing to throw off your aim there? That's fantastic news right out of the gate. I love to hear that.
Okay, next one I want to touch on is
Footstep volume, another big one.
A topic I touched on in our last dev update about footstep volume. We
did talk about it before.
Increased the volume of our footsteps in multiplayer. We're very happy with where they're at, where it's going to incentivize more stealth play styles without over-indexing on the need for the ninja perk. Okay, next.
Okay, so confirmed there as well. Footstep audio is going to be louder. It's going to be more noticeable. It won't be crazy. And I imagine this is probably something that's going to have to get tuned anyways once it comes to launch, because this is a never-ending conversation in Call of Duty. We are always going back and forth with footstep audio being way too loud and you can't move, or everyone's going to be pre-aiming you, or completely non-existent and someone sneaks up on you every other death, so it's something that always is going to have to be balanced. And for some presets it'll work fine, and some setups it'll work fine, and others it's still super inconsistent. But nice to know that they did up the footstep volume in general based off of beta feedback as well. Next up, slide tuning.
On where we've landed with our slide tuning coming out of the beta for launch. Alongside that dexterity change and the ADS change, we have slowed down the slide speed a bit, and we reduced the distance a bit, but I promise you it still feels great, it still feels fluid, but we want to make sure that that's not the only way you can enter in an engagement.
So that's a little interesting. They're actually nerfing the slide in Black Ops 7 a little bit, which, hey, if you're a fan of the slightly slower movement and you didn't like how OD it kind of felt in Black Ops 7 where it was just spammed constantly, which I certainly noticed that in my gameplay. Like, I was sliding everywhere. It's basically like I'm on ice. We got Call of Duty on Ice. It's a whole musical. But they are nerfing the slide speeds. That's pretty interesting. Mantle speed is actually up next, and this is another one that I'm very curious about.
Topic I want to touch
on. I had complaints about this too.
So we saw the feedback. We agree. Some of the mantles felt a little slow, so the team is going through every single mantle in the game to make sure that we have a consistent speed and fill, and everything feels fast and fluid.
Every I feel bad for whoever's gonna do that, to go through every single mantle in the game. I assume that's just every single animation that they can offer, not like every single spot on every map that's mantleable, but nice to see for sure that that's also becoming a little bit more fluid.
Next one is a meaty topic.
Perk
and it's about our perks and our
big
perk distribution. Got a lot of feedback. We made some changes ahead of beta coming out of our blog. A lot of you had a lot of feedback on that, which we appreciate. But the big changes that we're going to focus on here for launch are: one, we want to make sure that we are incentivizing and allowing for varied play styles. Two,
I will say, just the first point alone, I really felt like in the beta, at least, the playstyles weren't that varied. Like, I very much so had my perk direction, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just use this on every class because it's gonna be the best for moving around the map and navigating. So nice to see that they're trying to push for those
saw
varied
a lot
play
of feedback
styles.
on how stacked slot 1 was. So we've made
Yes,
some adjustments
very
there
much so.
that I think you're going to be happy with. And then 3, there were some kind of niche underutilized perks. So we've actually made some combinations of perks to make those chunky decisions and choices. Okay, let's get into the details.
Okay, I was going to say, hopefully they show us.
We've actually moved Tech Mask to slot 2 from slot 4. That's going to allow for classes like Flak Jacket, Tech Mask, and Guardian for a very strong support tanky class.
That's huge. Again, I talked about this a little bit. I felt like you were basically all going for enforcer perks if you wanted the game to feel smooth, and hopefully with the combination of dexterity being default movement and now the perk rebalance here, you could rock strategist and actually have an effective gameplay without feeling like you're basically missing out on a core feature like sliding and wall jumps
slot
and stuff.
1 from slot 3, Looper to slot 3 from slot 2.
Okay.
That's going to let you loop your score streaks. Cold-Blooded is going to slot 3 from slot 1, and that's going to allow for full stealth classes like Ghost, Ninja, and Cold-Blooded.
You can combine all those. That's
Scavenger is going back to slot 2 from slot 1. And then we'll start getting into the combinations of those underutilized perks that I touched on. So first up, Shadow, which allows you to move by traps without setting them off, has been added to Engineer. So that's going to be a fun perk.
I looked at Shadow and was like, yeah, I'm never using that. It's just not worth it in a lot of gameplay. I like the combinations.
Equipment through the world, and then also approach it and not set those traps off. Vendetta, which allows you to see the location of your previous killer, has been added to Assassin. So if you really want to target a single player on the enemy team, this is going to be your perk. So one for our melee players, we've actually added Bruiser, which gives you increased health regen and score for melee kills to close shave. So if you want to go all in on that melee playstyle, this is going to be the perk for you. Hunter's Instinct, which gives you intel on a nearby enemy after a kill, has been added to Tracker. So that's all about tracking
Tracker's way stronger now.
And then one that I'm
Tracker's like way stronger.
We've actually added Quartermaster, which recharges your equipment to Gearhead, and that has moved to slot 1. And if you're all about the gadgets, or if you're all about the field upgrades and the equipment, this is going to be the perk for you. So
the combinations there, I think, are what I like the most. You took a lot of perks that I looked at and I was going through the list and was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to ever use that on a class unless I'm going for like a super specific challenge or something like that. Those combinations actually sound way better and offer more competition outside of just the enforcer perks, which seemed like the absolute strongest in the beta.
To our perks, the team is very excited. We think you'll be very excited. And of course, we're very much looking forward to your feedback. Okay, next up, I want to touch on what we're doing with aim assist in Black Ops 7. So first off, we're looking very closely at the data, and the data says that controller players are winning slightly more in close range engagements, and then keyboard mouse players are winning slightly more in those long range engagements.
I'm a little surprised by that just because aim assist is so strong up close. I feel like it's not slight in those close range fights. Now, long range, I could absolutely see more of a balance between keyboard and mouse and controller because it does favor accuracy a little bit more, and aim assist is less dependent in some of those fights. But close range is like controller overwhelmingly dominant there. So I'm really surprised for them to say that it's close in controller just barely beating out keyboard and mouse in close range fights. But let's see what they got to say for it.
What we're going to do here is to try to close that gap, take a very close look at the strength of aim assist across all of those ranges. And then additionally, we are looking at rotational aim assist and the requirement for your right aim stick to be moving in the direction of your target. We'll have more concrete details to share soon.
I like that. As an aim assist abuser, as someone who cheeses it, because you can do a lot of things with your settings and your dead zones and things of that nature and your stick drift to basically force rotational aim assist to always be active. I like the fact that they're going to make you work more to actually utilize on it functioning, because rotational aim assist is pretty much overpowered in COD. Like, it is what makes close range fights so hard and so difficult to win for keyboard and mouse players. I like that a lot because if it's going to be a system in the game, there should be a barrier to it so that it's not just this instantaneous, it's there at all times and you can basically cheese it into every single fight. If it's going to exist, there has to be a criteria for it. I like that. Even though it's technically going to nerf what I'm doing in game, I think that hopefully is going to provide a little bit more balance. Plus, aim assist strength over those ranges there, that being looked into could be really good as well.
That's my time for today. Of course, we have more details coming on maps, modes, weapons, and progression as we head into launch.
So there we go. Maps, modes, weapons, progression, even more details to come on Black Ops 7 content. That's what we got for today. Some pretty significant perk updates and gameplay updates there. Aim assist changes officially confirmed. Some exciting stuff overall. I like what I'm hearing now. I'm liking the responses a lot from Treyarch based on a lot of feedback so far. I hope this is a trend that they continue into launch, and then especially post-launch as well, as we get even greater feedback on what all their changes feel like now. But that being said, that's going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and of course, if you're new to the channel, you want to ensure you're always up to date with everything going on in Call of Duty, this is the place to be. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Help us get one step closer to hitting 1 million. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.